What's up, everybody? We back up in here, Hella Flagrant, the podcast. It's your main man, Flagrant DM. I got my brother Sean B. Flagrant in here, man, and we got a special edition, Hella Flagrant, the podcast. We live from Lake Merritt for the last episode of season 2. So we started to do something a little special for y'all. So we out here live from Lake Merritt, our hometown of Oakland, and we kicking it with y'all. Sean B, what's up with it, bro?
Man, I'm always good, man. Just loving the day out here right now. Sitting out here. Beautiful weather.
Yeah,
Lake
it's nice.
Merritt, you know what I'm
It's
saying?
nice.
Different than being in the house recording for y'all, so we're going to get into it right now, man.
Yeah, so without further ado, I know you see the Hella Rings shirt. Unfortunately, our hometown Warriors did not receive another ring this year.
We still got hella rings, though.
Still got Hella Rings, though. But, congratulations to the Toronto Raptors. They did what they were supposed to do. Close it out in 6 games, beat the Golden State Warriors here in Oakland at Oracle Arena, and won the NBA title, which is kind of weird that the National Basketball Association title has gone to an international based team.
Yeah, crazy.
First one for Canada. And so, shout out to them for doing what they were supposed to do. But, obviously as Warrior fans, we weren't happy, but we're about to get into how it all went down. Let's talk about this.
Well, of course, like you said, man, the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors battled it out in the NBA Finals this year. Different from previous 4 years when the Warriors had to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. But, of course, LeBron is gone in L.A., so we didn't have to worry about him this year. Anyway, back to the game. Kawhi Leonard, monster season, monster playoffs.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to be honest with the dude. He's on another level.
Yeah.
Didn't think I would ever see him play this well this whole year, but the injury with the Spurs fans, I'm sorry. I can't say it enough, man.
Y'all got DeMar, though. Y'all got DeMar in the deal?
Yeah, y'all got DeMar. And that's, hey, y'all got DeMar. But anyway, so back to the game at hand. I mean, if y'all didn't know, man, Kevin Durant was out for us for a while. He, messed up his calf in the Houston Rockets series. So Houston Rockets series, he was out all the way, literally until the finals, until game, 5, I guess you can say, but we're going to start from the beginning. Game 1 was in Toronto. They had a better record than us this year, by 1 win, actually, but yeah. I think it made a difference. They started off hot. Kawhi came to play, did his thing. Steph had a pretty decent game that first game. Klay played well, but in the end, they wound up winning that game. Game 2, a little bit different. We wound up taking that one. Came down to the end. Klay hit some big shots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But only unfortunate. Not unfortunate. It wasn't fortunate at all. The bad part about that was Klay got injured. He messed up his hamstring in that game, and unfortunately, he was unable to play Game 3.
Yeah.
That was the deciding factor, I believe, in this series.
Yeah.
Game 3, Game 4 was back in Oakland. Oracle was there trying to make their name for themselves. If y'all don't know, this is the last year in Oakland for the Golden State Warriors. 47 years. They're now about to go across the bay to San Francisco, where everything gets way too expensive and nobody can pay for it. But whatever. Anyway, so Game 3 and Game 4, Klay, like I said, did not play Game 3. They lost. Steph did all he could at 47 points. Wasn't enough. Unfortunately, being down KD and down Klay is recipe for disaster. Game 4, Klay comes back. No KD yet. Didn't really matter. They hung on to the first half. Then they got blown out in the second half.
Yeah.
I'll let you take over on Game 5.
Game 5. So, Game 5, the Warriors decided that it was a good idea. I don't know whose idea, but it was a good idea for them to go ahead and bring Klay back after the injury. I mean, obviously he played well in Game 4, so Game 5 he played. Me personally, and this is, I know we're kind of going through a small recap, but I kind of think that hamstring injury was rushed. He may not have been all the way. And, Game 5, the Warriors were able to etch out a win in Toronto. We went to the watch party. It was super lit. We're at Oracle Arena. It was packed. Everybody was cheering. And we scraped by, and we got a win thanks to a missed shot by Kyle Lowry at the end of that game. Game 6.
No. We got to talk about the biggest thing in Game 5. Kevin Durant came back. for Game 5. We cannot gloss over that like that did not happen.
Oh,
This changed
I didn't want to talk about it.
everything
I didn't.
about
It hurt me so much.
everything.
It hurt me
And
so much because it's so many layers to the whole KD coming back, though. It's not just KD came back, re-injured his calf. We all knew it was the Achilles. The layers to this are the Warriors organization allowed Kevin Durant to play, knowing that he shouldn't have played. We knew in Houston that was an Achilles injury. We saw it. We saw the Ghost grab him by the leg. No one hit him. It was a non-contact injury. We saw the Ghost grab him by the leg. We knew it was an Achilles then. You sat him all of the Portland series for a reason. The man didn't play basketball for over a month.
right.
Didn't even practice. And so then they have, one run through with some G League players and some coaches, some young guys, as they called it.
Right.
Probably no contact in that practice whatsoever. Nobody pushing him to go hard. And so in Game 5, as Kevin Durant comes in, 11 points. Everybody's loving it, happy. He goes to make one dribble move.
Right.
One good dribble move, and he's done.
Ruptured Achilles.
Ruptured the Achilles is what the official diagnosis is. We saw him sit down on the court, have to be helped off by Steph and Andre Iguodala to the locker room. And so, yeah, that was the end of the KD drama. Again, the Warriors still managed to pull out Game 5 and get the win, even with the injured KD,
right,
and move on to a Game 6 that was brought back here at Oracle Arena. Game 6 started off seemingly well. The Warriors looked like they were out in front. Looked like there was going to be a push for a Game 7. And then we talk about, as I talked about the Klay Thompson injury from before, as you mentioned, what happens is you start to overcompensate. The hamstring, he might even tweak the knee. It looked like in Game 2 or 3, it looked like he might even tweak the knee a little bit thin. You start to overcompensate. You start to do things to help your body. Long story short, Game 6, Klay Thompson goes down, little two-handed dunk and a foul. Misses the shot, but also tweaks his knee in the process. And as we later find out, tore his ACL. Walks back to the locker room. Somebody tells him, hey, if you plan to come back for this game at all, you got to come shoot these free throws. Comes back out like a soldier, nails the free throws. Next possession down, they foul for him to get out. Goes back to the locker room. We don't see Klay for the rest of that game. And turns out that we will not see Klay for a very, very long time on a basketball court. Possibly, in my opinion, the whole next season. I feel like they should just let him rest until he's back in full health. There's no reason to rush him back. And we'll get into more why that is. But there's no reason to rush him back right now. Long story short, with the absence of Klay, no Kevin Durant, obviously, a very, very hurt Kevon Looney playing, with the broken collarbone in there. The Raptors, it was just too much. You know what I mean? It was just too much for the Warriors to overcome. Steph, Draymond, they did what they could. But at the end of the day, like I said, you give it to the Raptors for doing what they're supposed to do. They beat the team that was in front of them. They played hard. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, two guys that were not on the scouting report, really came in and did what they were supposed to do. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard did his thing. Even Kyle Lowry started off the game 6 on a mean scoring tear, which was not usual for him at all. So, hands down to the Raptors. They did what they were supposed to do. They won the NBA championship, had their parade. Drake was there.
Of course.
And, that was that. But back to what's important to us, the Warriors. Moving forward. Following this, debacle medically, we got some decisions to make. Obviously the biggest decision Bob Myers put out there is that the Warriors intend to sign both Klay and KD to max contracts. 2 injured players. $80 million for next year at home.
Yeah, and it's just not that. So like we explained, Klay and KD are now hurt. The Achilles, I'm not a doctor, but the Achilles probably would take KD somewhat roughly around a whole full calendar year to come back, which means that even if you do that, the best case scenario, maybe you play sometime in the finals, but you don't even know at this point you can even get to the playoffs.
Right.
I'm just going to be honest with you, Warriors fans. We don't know right now. Situation with Klay, it's a 9 to 12-month period, depending on how fast he recovers. Klay, by all means, probably will recover fast, but like you stated, I don't see any need to rush him back. We have this problem right now because we were pressing our players a little bit too much, as well as trying to rush them back because we needed help and because we were losing during this Toronto series. Now, look, injuries are serious. These guys are 30, 31 years old, something like that. They're not young guys. They've been playing 5 straight years in the NBA Finals, also going to the Olympics and going to China and playing overseas and different things like that. I mean, they have very busy lives and they do a lot of things. So to rush them back is probably not the greatest thing possible. So what does that mean for Warriors fans? You're going to open a new arena in San Francisco with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and who knows?
Yeah.
Just to be honest with you.
And the who knows part is serious because when you're gonna commit to paying Klay Thompson and KD this amount of money, we already were struggling on the bench. As we talked about at the beginning of last basketball season on this podcast, we talked about it. We didn't really train up and that's I know we said we got to train up some of those guys. Some of those guys just may not have put the work in on their own. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we didn't play Jordan Bell as much, but that may be Jordan Bell's fault. That may not be a Steve Kerr thing. That may be Jordan Bell wasn't putting in the work he was supposed to. Regardless, we have issues on our bench. And most of those guys were on 1-year contracts anyway. And so now we're in a situation where we've got to sign bench players. We've got to sign backup guys. And, you know what I mean, we don't have a whole lot of money to play with. And so the Warriors are in a real tough spot when it comes to, like you said, are we even going to be a real playoff contender? I know we're not a finals contender. I know we're not a contender for a championship. But even being a playoff contender going into this new stadium, we got to do something, and we got to do a lot on a small budget. And so Bob Myers, Joe Lacob, this is where your true colors come in, and let's see how well you guys really can do your jobs, because you guys are going to have to do some wheeling and dealing to make this team, a formidable opponent against anybody.
Yeah, and I want to say this, too, about the Warriors. I'm not going to sit here and point fingers about what happened with the injuries. Things do happen. Can't blame them. But on the same sense, I mean, you got to be mindful of the situation. My personal opinion is, championships, we didn't win it, obviously, this year, but a championship wouldn't have been worth, hurting KD or Klay.
Right.
I mean, they're two of our best players. They both are now going on free agency, and they both have serious injuries. So whoever decides to take them, if they don't stay with the Warriors for some reason, which I honestly believe at least Klay will. I'm not going to sit here and lie about KD because I have no idea. But you now risking the situation now that you not only lost this year, but now you're going to lose next year, and you don't know what's going to happen with Klay.
Right.
You don't know how he comes back. And the same thing with KD, whether you go to New York, Clippers, wherever he goes, it doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is he's going to be out for a year. So, the NBA is going to miss KD because of everything he does, whether he plays for the Warriors or he plays for somebody else. It's just competition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and getting to that, that changes a whole bunch of things in free agency because
absolutely,
as we've seen, Kawhi Leonard just win the championship for Toronto. You saw him show a little bit of emotion.
Right.
Right. Right. So, but even with that, he looked like he had a great time at the parade, and he looks like he's very happy with Toronto, but we don't know because everything that we've known for the whole entire year was he was going to be linked to the Clippers or maybe even the Lakers because he wants to be in LA. So what happens now? What happens now to all these free agents, considering that KD and Klay have now maybe changed the Warriors' dynamics in terms of playoffs and championships? It's a free-for-all.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, looking at that, with Klay and KD out of the mix in terms of free agency, looking at what moves are being made. Obviously, Kyrie opted out of his contract in Boston. There's a lot of talk, strong talk, that he's going to Brooklyn. You look at now Brooklyn, who might have thought about bringing a KD over there to complement a Kyrie. What other moves are they going to make? Because it looks like they're not holding on to D'Lo in Brooklyn. You look at New Orleans, obviously, and we'll get more into the Anthony Davis trade, but Anthony Davis being traded over to the Lakers. New Orleans now sits with the number 1 pick and the number 4 pick. What does that mean for them? Do they trade one of those picks away to get a veteran player? How does that affect free agency? You look at the Lakers now. With having Anthony Davis on your team now, coupled with LeBron, obviously you got rid of Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and so now you need a guard over there to complement LeBron and Anthony Davis, and so free agency market is crazy right now.
Right.
All signs are pointing to Kawhi having to decide between the Clippers and the Raptors, but there may be another team that comes in the mix. Maybe the Lakers find a way to throw their hat in that mix too. So without Clay and KD in there, it really shakes. I mean, it was shaking things up with the two of them in there because there was no guarantee that Clay and KD were staying Warriors.
Right.
The only thing that their injury has done is almost move the needle to they'll be longtime Warriors.
Right.
And so, now we have all these other open opportunities happening in free agency, like Harrison Barnes opting out of his contract.
I mean, hey, I don't know. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I have no idea about Harrison Barnes. He can do what he wants to do. I think that he will have a market though, because like you said, because of the KD injury and because of the Clay injury, it changes things. Kyrie now, because like I was saying, Kyrie was linked to being paired up with KD. So if that's the case, and the team doesn't want to wait on KD, what happens to that? Does he still wait for KD? Does he? I mean, obviously he's not going to stay in Boston, from all the indications that I've heard. I mean, what does he do now? Does he find somebody else to team up? What does this mean now, like you said, for Harrison Barnes or the Jimmy Butlers,
Right.
or the Al Horford, who just opted out of the contract also for the Celtics? These lesser-known guys, Chris Middleton, was with these lesser-known guys. Yeah, Kemba Walker. They might not be the top priority, but because of these injuries and because now these teams won't get them, they're moving up. Their pays are now going to move up. Now, think about this right now. I mean, no disrespect to any Charlotte fans, but is Kemba Walker really worth $221 million? Are you just going to spend that just to keep him because you might not be able to get another free agent because everybody else is moving?
Right.
That's the thing that teams have to understand, because if you go out and just over jump the gun just because somebody else is hurt or somebody else is offering the money, think about what can happen to your team. You know what I'm saying? You can be hamstrung for a long, long time. There are people and there are teams that have been stuck on contracts forever and ever and ever and have not been able to get out of it, i.e., the reason why the Boston Celtics are so good now is because they wound up fixing the trade over to the Brooklyn Nets and giving up old Paul Pierce, old Kevin Garnett, and Deron Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, they basically they got all those. That's why they have all those draft picks. But sometimes you won't be able to do that. So I advise all the teams to think very, 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 very wisely, including the Warriors too.
Yeah, about what you do next.
Yeah, about what you do next, because I mean, Warriors fans, we don't want to hear this, but I mean, is it worth doing that? And I think at least for Clay, yes, I do think that. I mean, he's been doing everything for us. I'm not saying that KD hasn't, but if KD does have any kind of strong situations and reasons to leave, then maybe you have to wait and see what other money that can come out of it, later on in the future, because you never know. In this situation now, you got to think too, Draymond Green is going to come up the next year. Does this mean now that if you do sign it, you're sending a direct message to Draymond that, hey, we can't keep you?
We can't afford you
so
at that number. And so then also putting him back in the market, does that put him on the trade block today? Do you move him now? While so much stuff is going on in free agency, do you try to put him out there and see what you can get for him now? Then maybe you get two other players back for a Draymond Green. Maybe you get a player and a pick and some money, you know what I mean, for a Draymond Green to free you up. I like Draymond on this team. I personally would not want to see him go, but as a business, again, Bob Myers and Joe Lacob have kind of made it clear that they want KD and Klay as Warriors for the next 5 years. There's not enough money to go around. Right. You know what I mean? This isn't baseball. You can't just keep paying a higher luxury tax. There's a cap there. And so with that, like somebody's going to have to go eventually. And so you look at this market and you look at a lot of different things and, what does that mean for Draymond? But then coming back to a free agency market, what does this mean for some of these other teams? Because again, too, like you said, going back to your point about signing somebody for $200 and something million.
Right.
I hate to bring this guy up, knock on wood, but a Mike Conley situation. Sign this guy for a ton of money, he gets injured immediately. Right. Now what? Now you got all this money tied up into a guy that's going to be hard, if at all possible, to move. Yeah. And so again, when you say is Kemba Walker worth $220, I don't know. But is a Kemba Walker that I can't guarantee is going to be here for all these years worth $220? I don't see that. But you got to pay somebody.
Yeah,
at some point.
But see, this is actually going to go to my example that I was thinking of, because it actually came through and I forgot to talk to you about this. But a report came out earlier yesterday and today that there has been friction in the Rockets locker room between Chris Paul and James Harden going into the season, going into the playoffs, and even before that.
Yeah.
That Chris Paul has demanded to be traded. He's recently come out and said that that's a lie, but I'm
That's a
right
media
now,
cover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's also been reports that he hasn't talked to James Harden in 2 months.
I believe that.
Outside of the court. I mean, you could tell that there was obviously a heated situation after the last game of the war when they played him in the conference finals of the Warriors this year. Obviously, they had some issues because Chris Paul believes that he should be running the situation. Obviously, James Harden being the MVP last year, possibly being the MVP this year, is like, no. Why would you be nominated to be the person that things go through when you haven't done anything in your career to get to a certain point? Chris Paul is, in basketball year, is old. Chris Paul has had difficulties dealing with other teammates. This is not the first time the situation has come up.
Yeah.
It happened in L.A. It happened in New Orleans in his first stop. The reason why Chris Paul keeps moving is because of the situations on and off the court. I'm telling you right now, State Farm, he needs some insurance because eventually that's going to be a problem.
Well, and he's been hanging out with LeBron a lot lately. You know what I mean? Maybe some of that is starting to creep into him where it's like, man, maybe I can go hang out or go play in L.A.
Well, that's the thing, though. But $40 million per year.
Not for CP. I like the old Chris Paul, but this Chris Paul, I don't see $40 million a year out of this Chris Paul.
I wouldn't pay him 20.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, especially for how he performed in the playoffs. I couldn't do it. I can't foresee it. And so again, this and I've said it. I'll keep saying it, and I'll say it again. Even with the injuries to KD and Klay, this year's free agency and draft is still going to be one of the most impactful for the NBA for seasons to come. Now, with KD and Klay sitting out this year, next year's might be a little interesting, but I still don't think it's going to be as interesting as this year. You got so many guys on the block, like you name. I mean, Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker, Kyrie. There's just so many guys out there in the free agency market. This year's free agency is going to be one of the most interesting to come.
Yep.
Not as interesting as free agency, but still important. The NBA draft coming up in 2 days from today where we're recording this. But NBA draft is coming up. And as most people expect, it seems like New Orleans is going to take Zion Williamson at 1. But then what happens after that?
Well, I mean, from all indications, I think Ja Morant will probably go to Memphis at number 2. They're speaking of Mike Conley when you talked about him earlier, with that big deal that they paid. They're looking to replace him now because of the situation. Get younger, better, obviously less money. So they're going to probably go that route. I would expect R.J. Barrett to probably be 3rd. Zion Williamson's teammate at Duke. Then after that, I have no clue. There's been names. Darius Garland as a point guard.
Yeah.
That's been really good. But since New Orleans now has number 4 pick, and they just traded for Lonzo Ball, do you go that route?
Another guard. I don't know because but here's the thing. I don't know how Lonzo's coming back off that injury.
True.
And so that's on New Orleans to kind of roll that dice there and see. But do you need, another guard?
But you also have you have Drew Holiday,
right? That's what I'm saying.
Point guard that had been playing point guard, even though I think he'd be better as a shooting guard. But my point is, I think maybe it would be better looking at a guy like DeAndre Hunter out of Virginia, who's a small forward who has talent.
Yeah.
Maybe you run. Yeah, maybe you run with. Jared Culver. Yeah. There's this other guy, Cam Reddish, is a guy that people have been talking about. Romeo Langford is probably going to be later down, so you probably, don't have to pick that high for him. But, it's going to be a lot of decisions for a lot of these teams. I mean, a few teams have a few picks. Boston they have their towards the end, so they're not going to really make a lot of noise. But they have 3 picks. Atlanta right now, you're talking about, they have 2 picks, 8 and 10.
Yep.
So, I mean,
I think, me personally, with the draft order and the players getting picked is fine. But I'm more interested to see how many different trades happen around the draft. Like, who's going to trade a pick away on draft night to get a veteran guy? Because, again, the free agent market being so wide open, people may be trying to make moves to acquire other people. And so looking at this year's draft class, it's okay. But I really think what I'm looking forward to on draft day is the trades. I'm looking at Atlanta possibly trading the 10 pick, keeping the 8, trading the 10. You know what I mean? To try to move around and get another piece that they need. Because you got a Trae Young in there. You got Jared Collins in there. You know what I mean? So maybe you trade one of those picks away to get a veteran guy in to go with your 8th pick and those guys and see how that works out. You look at New Orleans now. Do you keep the 4 pick? Do you trade it? You're in a good spot by having 1 and 4 in this draft, and then having next year's. You got a protected next year, and unprotected the year after, and then you got, I think, an unprotected. I don't know if it's protected or unprotected. The other 2 picks you got out of the Lakers.
Language in that is crazy.
But you have some ridiculous amounts of picks, to work with.
And if you really think about it, too, you got new players that have already come in after the AD trade. I mean, Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, all these guys are young players. So, I mean, that's almost like getting draft picks, especially that you never had. So, you don't, after getting Zion, that's 4 players that are new no matter what, that are young guys that will develop, that are under, low cash grabs right now. You don't have to pay them huge amount of monies at this point. So, you can kind of work with that and maybe trade your number 4 pick, get a veteran, somebody that can help lead their team. But it's that's what I'm saying. It's everybody's world right now. There's so many teams, so many free agents that are willing to do different things. We're gonna touch on this right now about the AD thing. I mean, the Lakers thought it was better to just get rid of their young talent and bring in a bona fide superstar. I mean, they've been trying to push for this trade the whole last year. I'm sure you guys know by now. But they finally got AD over to play with LeBron. I mean, Rich Paul is his agent. It's LeBron's agent and Anthony Davis's agent. He made it happen. You figured it was going to happen at some point. They were going to figure a way. They told Boston, we don't even want to deal with nobody unless you can give us New Orleans, that is, unless you can give us what's his name?
Kuzma.
No. I'm talking about from Boston. Jason Tatum.
Tatum.
But New Orleans was going to mess with it unless they get Jason Tatum. And I kind of believe that, Boston, they were smart enough to make that move. Because if you're going to lose Kyrie and Al Horford, you wouldn't have anybody right now. I mean, they still don't have very much, but at least you have that star on your team because AD probably was going to leave. But now, like I said, AD is now with the Lakers, and then they don't have very many people other than LeBron, Kuzma, and AD. I think they have 2 other players that are signed to their team, and everybody else they got to pick up in free agency. So, just same situation. Everybody's going to be looking to move something, to pick up somebody, or do something, to trade somebody on the draft day. So
and staying on the AD topic a little bit too. It's hype. Everybody's hype about it. It's a big deal. Obviously, LeBron's happy about it. Laker fans seem to be happy about it. My thing is, did you give up too much? Like, did you really get? Because, and here's why I'm asking. Because we've never seen LeBron come back off of an injury. Not saying his injury was that significant, but he played injured for the last part of the season. We've never seen him come back. We don't know what LeBron we're getting. We're probably going to get a competitive LeBron, but mentally and physically don't always do the same things. Your mind might think you could do something, but if your body's starting to tell you no, we might get a different LeBron. The other thing is AD's kind of injury prone. And so, as a Lakers organization, I knock on wood, I don't want to see anything bad. I would like, I'm interested to see how this season goes with the 2 of them playing together. But did you give up too much? Like, this is it at a point where it's like, hey, AD's AD, but is he worth giving away the whole ship?
Right. And we're gonna have to wind up and see. You never know how good those players are gonna be. I mean, especially Lonzo. I mean, these guys are young. Lonzo, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram could be a hell of a player, but on the same flip side, I can honestly see him kind of washing out. Same thing. I mean, I think that Lonzo is going to be a steady player no matter what happens. I don't know how high his ceiling is, but I know he'll be a good defender because he can play defense very well. But I mean, I see them doing a lot over in New Orleans. They get a fresh start. So I mean, that's good enough right now. I think they all need to get away from the whole hand of LeBron and the Laker drama. So
Yeah. And shout outs to Jeannie Buss for getting what Magic Johnson couldn't get done.
Right. For real though.
I say that sarcastically though, because it's like I feel like y'all did it in spite of Magic. Like I feel like y'all gave away the house just to be able to say y'all got AD and got done what Magic
Right.
Johnson
Like we did
couldn't do.
ourselves.
Yeah, which is kind of sideways, but it is what it is. Laker fans. Good luck to y'all. We'll see what happens with all of that. So in other basketball-related news, this comes off the heels of the NBA Finals. The Toronto Raptors general manager Masa Ujiri is being charged with a battery charge for hitting a security guard in Oracle Arena following the Raptors' Game 6 win and title win. It looks like, according to documents filed today, that this Alameda County Sheriff's officer has suffered a broken jaw from the incident. Ujiri apparently closed fist punched the man after the game. Ujiri was trying to get onto the court after the game. The officer asked him for his credentials. He didn't have it readily available on him. Obviously, this officer, being from out here, doesn't know who this man is. I mean, he just works the games.
Can't blame him for that.
You could have 30 GMs in the NBA walk up on me right now, and I probably wouldn't know any of them. So I can't blame the man for not knowing who you are. You need to have your credentials.
Right.
And so Ujiri got upset, obviously probably heavily emotional from the win, and socked this man in the jaw. And the officers suffered a fractured jaw. And so we'll see how that turns out for Ujiri. And legally, the NBA hasn't stepped out and done anything yet about it. But I guess they're going to wait for the court case to come out. So there's that. Other news, other not so pleasant sports news. Big Papi David Ortiz is recovering from a gunshot wound related to what initially seemed to be a robbery. As obviously things start to unfold and stories come out, it looks like, and I'm going to let you get into this one a little bit more, but it looks like there's a lot more to this incident than just a simple robbery.
Right, so Big Papi was in the Dominican Republic, obviously where he's from. If you don't know who he is, he played for the Boston Red Sox, one of the best players they've ever had. Extremely popular, so you can imagine how popular he is in the Dominican Republic. Now, he was eating dinner. Man came up on him, shot him right and there, ran off. Now, like I said, reports were that he was eating dinner. I mean, I'm sorry, not he was eating dinner. He was eating dinner, but reports were that he was being robbed, but the man didn't take anything. He just left.
Right.
More information has come out that somebody was paid. A hitman was paid to basically kill him.
Yeah.
$8,000. $8,000 was paid to a man to go kill somebody.
I got to do the math to see what that transfers into in the Dominican Republic, but I still don't think that's a lot of money.
$8,000
for a man worth over $160 million at one point.
Right. I'm sure he, even if he wanted to, would have gave you $8,000 just so he would get
Yes.
Anyway, not to make light of that story, but my situation, but it was tied into possible drug dealers connections. We don't really know everything about the story. I personally, once every news comes out, I probably would try to write a story, of course, on the website www.theflagrantfile.com. But the situation is terrible right now. Big Papi is now back in the United States, in Boston. The Red Sox flew him back, and he's in the hospital, but he's recovering very well. But the situation looks like I said, if it's tied to drugs, if it's tied to a situation, and he was paid with a hitman to kill him, there is going to be a bigger story from this, because there is no reason for somebody to pay a hitman any type of money to kill you if you don't have
any involvement,
something to do with it.
Yeah, you got to be in the mix some kind of way.
Even if you do have a whole bunch of money, because like I said, he was not robbed. They just shot at him.
Yeah.
That's it. So, unfortunate news right now, of course, for Big Papi, David Ortiz, and obviously, the Boston Red Sox family and anybody who likes him. I mean, it's a horrible thing regardless. But I believe there is more to the story, and, we will find out in later days come.
So, as we wrap up season 2 of Hella Flagrant, the podcast, we want to remind y'all that the stories on theflagrantfile.com, as Sean B. Flagrant mentioned, will still be going on. We are going to take a small hiatus. We'll come back mid-August for the start of college football and NFL football season. During that time, we'll be replaying all the best ofs, all your favorite moments from the Hella Flagrant podcast. You can look for that on YouTube, on Instagram, and you can see us and talk to us and still banner with us. We'll still be posting. We'll still be putting up stories. So feel free, check in all the time. Obviously, shirts, hellaflagrant.com, and we will still sell the Hella Ring shirt. Don't get it twisted.
We still do.
It's still there for anybody who wants it, as well as the new foul shirts, the Earned Stripe tee, and the original script tee, and even the line tees. All of those are available on hellaflagrant.com right now. Go get those, and then, like I said, check into theflagrantfoul.com for news, updates, and then stay active with us on socials, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We got all those pages, so just make sure you check in with us as often as possible, because we're still going to be posting. We're still going to be dropping, stories here and there. We'll definitely do a special after free agency is kind of wrapped up and the draft is wrapped up. We'll do a special about that. Maybe even a special midsummer just because.
Right.
But like I said, check back in with us. Hella Flagrant, the podcast. We will definitely be around still. We're coming back for season 3. Mid-August is going to be new, fresh. We got some whole new ideas for y'all. So, stay tuned.
Yeah, man. Thanks for everybody that has supported us so far. I mean, we've been doing this for a little bit of time now, and I mean, we've been growing and growing and growing, and it's all for y'all. I mean, we love sports and we love to talk about it. I know everybody listening loves to listen to it. So, I mean, just keep supporting us. Tell your friends, tell their friends, tell their friends, tell the world. It don't even matter. Just keep us being played, man. You know what I'm saying? Keep reading. We don't take this time out for nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's all for y'all. So keep supporting us. And like you said, www.theflagrantfoul.com. www.hellaflagrant.com for these shirts. And like I said, the socials, everything, we still live, we still doing it. It's all for y'all. Remember that.
Yeah.
We do everything that way that y'all can hear our content, you know what I'm saying, and the world can hear it. They can see the other side of sports, because it's flagrant.
It's flagrant.
It's flagrant.
It's hella flagrant.
You know
It's hella flagrant. So,
yeah.
On that note, you know what I'm saying? It's been great. Season 2 has been lovely. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. But we finna be out. Go enjoy this Bay weather. And, go do our thing, man.
Stand up.
Peace.